Good evening, sports Zodians. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I am Mike Aglioloro. I am your host for this is Sports Zone. Coming to you live like we do each and every week here via the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Radio Network. We got a good show for you tonight. We'll be joined by Dave Hastings and Erich in a matter of moments. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We got everything that went on this past weekend in the NFL. Week 11 is now in the books, and we are looking forward to Week 12. And we have the Thanksgiving holiday that will give us the traditional 3 games on Thanksgiving. Of course, the Cowboys wind up playing in the afternoon game. You have the Lions playing against the surging Chicago Bears in the early game. Cowboys will be taking on the Washington Redskins, who just lost Alex Smith on Sunday in a pretty bad ankle injury. I can't remember the bones that he actually broke, but it was an injury compared to the injury suffered by Joe Theismann 33 years ago to the day that he suffered the injury because of a Lawrence Taylor sack. So now the Redskins will be going into Dallas with Colt McCoy as their starting quarterback. So we have that. And then in your late game, you will have the New Orleans Saints taking on the the New Orleans Saints taking on the Atlanta Falcons, and that game will be in New Orleans. And New Orleans is, of course, on a roll right now. So you got that. So we'll be previewing a few of those games. And you had the big Monday night game last night. The Chiefs losing to the St. Louis Rams in what I believe is the highest scoring game ever in the NFL. They lost by a score of 54 to 51. They scored 14 touchdowns in that game, if I'm not mistaken. And the Buffalo Bills have only scored 10 all season. So we got that. And we welcome Dave Hastings to the program. Now, Dave, how you doing tonight? Dave, are you there? There he is.
How we doing, Mike?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
Doing well.
Very nice, very nice. So, before Erich comes on, let's start with this. So, did you catch the game last night?
Yeah, I got a chance to watch basically the whole thing, and yeah, I got a lot of different thoughts. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to kind of start somewhere specific or just kind of dive into the game in general.
Feel free, dive right in, man.
I mean, first and foremost, I thought it was fun. It was entertaining. I was, kind of edge of the seat watching the game as it went on, and all the lead changes and everything. But all things considered, I like what I heard one of the guys off of 98.7 say on my ride home from work. The happiest person watching that game when it was all said and done was Sean Payton. And I thought that was a great kind of way to look at it where, man, did we not get a great show? But if you're looking at the best all-around team, I think it's got to be New Orleans from what you saw. And, I mean, the way you see how they play in the defensive side of the ball, the running game in comparison to the other two teams, it's just a whole nother level. And, when it comes to playoff football, defense is huge. You're talking the ability to run the ball is huge. There's a lot where the idea of those offenses being able to do what they were able to do and the way those coaches called that game, like, I mean, you think about the Rams being up 10 points and Gurley, has one carry over until after one carry, or I think it was until after Kansas City got the ball back and gave it back to them. Like, it just didn't make any sense when you're playing with a lead against a team that can score in a matter of seconds. So I don't know. It was weird because I really enjoyed the game, but when you really sit back and look at it, is how you expect winning teams to be able to play, it wasn't the greatest thing you saw. But their defense made plays. There was plays all around the board. I mean, there's so many different things you could look at from that game. That game was exciting as a fan, but like I said, when you really break it down, I think the best looking team after that game is New Orleans.
Well, I mean, I definitely get why you're saying that. And, I mean, obviously, in a game where there's over 100 points scored, defense is not exactly at the forefront. But the one thing I'll say to kind of defend them is there were 14 touchdowns scored all total. 3 of them were defensive touchdowns, 2 of them by the Rams. And the Rams had some of the better defensive plays in the game when you look at the strip sack on Mahomes, and I believe it was the first half and some of the later plays they made. And the guy who made those 2 interceptions for touchdowns, Ebucom, I think is his last name. Samson Ebucom, I think. So I think at this point you do have to look at the Saints as the stronger defense. And we've said all season that the Rams defense probably isn't as good as it should be when you consider how many moves they've made to improve that defense. But the one thing you can say about them is they made the plays when they had to make the plays. And they did do enough so that at the end of the game, the Rams were able to win the game. Now, that may not be saying a lot in a game where both teams score over 50 points, which I don't believe. I said this before you came on. Highest scoring game in NFL history. I believe it's the first game where both teams score over 50 points. So, again, definitely not a defensive showcase, but the Rams defense, in my opinion, they made the plays when they had to make the plays.
Well, I mean, they did, but they also got lucky with 2 different drops by Travis Kelce, specifically one on a 3rd down. The 1 or 2 times where Tyreek Hill took the punt return inside the 5 when the ball really looked like it would have went into the end zone for a touchback. So, I mean, Kansas City did things to also help the Rams. I mean, of course they made plays, but all things considered, it's not like the Chiefs didn't do their own share of giving that win to the Rams.
Yeah, that's fair. My cousin is pointing out in the chat room, Saints and Giants played a 52-49 game a couple years ago, and we talked about it on the show. Cowboys and the Broncos in 2014, I think it was. The final score of that game was 51-48, if I'm not mistaken. So there have been high-scoring games in the past, but like I said, pretty sure this is the first game in NFL history where both teams scored over 50 points. So.
Yeah, it's the first game in which both teams scored over 50 points, and it was the 3rd highest scoring game in NFL history.
Oh, okay.
The highest scoring game in Monday Night Football history.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you saw the stat. I had said this before you came on. So there were 14 touchdowns scored in last night's game, and the Buffalo Bills have scored 10 touchdowns as a team all season.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it's 13 touchdowns total for Buffalo, but either way, it's still not something that's a positive if you're a Bills fan. We can put it that way.
Now, I'm going to bring up something that my cousin said in the chat room because I don't know that I necessarily agree with it. He said the game showed that Mahomes is overrated. Now, I don't know if that's entirely true, so much as you have to remember this is still a second-year player who's really playing in his first full season of football. He only got in 1 game last year. So, yeah, the 3 interceptions definitely shows he still has a ways to go. Still put up 6 touchdowns, though.
Yeah, I would never – I can't agree at all that Mahomes is overrated. He puts up 6 touchdowns, almost 400 yards passing. Yeah, he had 3 interceptions, 2 of them in which were towards the end of the game trying to make plays to win the game. It's his 9th or 10th NFL start. You can't blame the kid. He put up those kind of numbers, and he's consistently done it throughout this season. There's no way I'll call that kid overrated. I won't say he deserves to be MVP. I think I still lean more towards Drew Brees for that one right now. The guy's only had 1 turnover on the year. So, I mean, if that doesn't tell you how good he's playing right now, I don't know what would.
Mm.
But I mean, Mahomes, that kid's going to be something special for a long time.
Yeah.
Still, David, I have the chat open and I see what you're saying, but there are 31 other teams in the NFL that would have no problem having him as quarterback. And I'll leave it at that. I just can't. There's nothing you can say that would convince me that Patrick Mahomes is a bust. I think that kid has one of the brightest futures out there.
Yeah, I mean, 2 interceptions in the last 2 drives. I mean, as a young player, and again, as you said, only his 9th or 10th NFL start. That's just growing pains right there, in my opinion. He sees himself down, and he winds up. He's trying to do things to win the game, and he made some stupid mistakes. Yeah, the Andy Reid quarterback thing. I would really like to see him playing a non-Andy Reid offense. Well, that's not going to happen. But I guarantee you, like you said, every other team in football right now would probably take a gamble on him doing well in a non-Andy Reid offense, based on what we've seen so far. So, I mean, this is what comes with young quarterbacks, though. Not everything is going to come up roses for them. There are going to be some struggles. I think based on the fact, I think the expectation might be a little high just because he came out of the gate so strong this year. We've never seen him throw 3 interceptions in a game before, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that might be where a little bit of the backlash comes from. But if anything, I think this just tempers expectations. Maybe smidgen. Overrated, though, you would need to see him throw 3 or 4 interceptions in a game about 3 or 4 times over the next few weeks to be able to make a statement like that.
But I'll tell you this: if he throws 3 or 4 interceptions, 3 interceptions a game, and he's still throwing 6 touchdowns and over 400 yards, it's gonna still be hard to sit here and try to call a kid a bust.
That's fair.
Call him more like Brett Favre. I mean, really, let's keep in mind, Brett Favre does own the NFL record for most career interceptions. So, I mean, for all the greatness people shine on Brett Favre, he turned the ball over and he did it a lot. So, I'll just say I think the kid has a bright future. And let's keep in mind, it's not like Goff had the greatest, he had an amazing game and still had 3 turnovers himself. So, I mean, and we're not going to call him a bust. I just think it was one of those games where, I mean, look at it like this. It took over almost 4 hours to play that game because of the amount of points that were scored. And that includes both offensively and defensively. So, I mean, that game had everything you could ask for an entertaining football game. And yet, if I'm being completely honest, like I said, I still think that by watching that game as a strictly, football type of analysis perspective, I really think you're talking about New Orleans looking like the best team in the league right now after, what's been now 11 weeks. So I that to me is maybe the biggest takeaway I get out of this game when it comes down to moving forward.
Well, first of all, minor correction. I know it's not a huge one. He had 2 fumbles last night. He actually did not throw an interception. Goff did. So just wanted to point that out. Not a big thing, but I'll tell you this. I agree with you that the Saints have probably played the best out of every team so far, but I'm going to go on record right here. I think the Rams are the better team over the Saints. And I think right now it's safe to say they're going to be the 2 teams in the conference finals, barring anything unforeseen. And if that comes, because right now with that victory last night, Saints would currently have Rams currently would have home field. Rams obviously have the bye this week, and the Saints are going to be playing, so they have the 1-game advantage. Homer on the road, I'm going to wind up picking the Rams to win that conference final game against the Saints. I think when it comes to later in the year, I think we're seeing the rise of Jared Goff, and we saw it last year. And right now, if I got to pick the better quarterback between at least Goff and Mahomes, I think Goff I would put Goff in an argument for the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I'm obviously not saying careers-wise. I'm just talking for this season. And I think at the end of the day, Saints are definitely playing better right now, but I think when it comes to playoff time, I think the Rams wind up taking it over the Saints.
Well, thankfully we still have 6 more games left to watch, and I mean, me personally, and I think you would agree, as Cowboy fans, you got to appreciate the last 6 games because there's no guarantee they get another one after it. So
That's very true.
all 3 of those teams are guaranteed to be in those playoffs, and I mean, I understand they're not clinched, but I think we all can say it's fair to assume, barring any drastic injuries, all 3 of those teams will be playing in the playoffs and most likely also have a high seed in a bye week.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that right now. So let's take a look at some other highlights from this past weekend in the NFL. What else you got, Dave? What else stood out? Oh, actually, I'm going to apologize. I want to start this off this week. The Redskins have been riding so high, in my opinion, this season. At the very least, they've been the best team in the NFC East. And then they get dealt this huge blow on Sunday with the Alex Smith injury, which at first didn't look so bad, but then you see the replays and you see that right ankle moving in a way that it's not supposed to. And in my opinion, their season just kind of shattered with that ankle.
Yeah, I think it's fair to assume that most likely they won't pull off the division, but you can't sit here and act like Colt McCoy can't play some football.
Yeah.
So, based on how well he's, been studying the playbook and, how well he's, gotten done in the few reps that he gets per practice, I think it's one of the more dangerous things is the fact that he's in a situation where he's got an offensive line that is beyond banged up. So what gives him a benefit over Alex Smith is he's still more athletic. So he can run and basically run for his life and make those random plays that could still hurt defenses. So, and their defense is really good. They have a solid defensive line and they play good defensive football. So I don't think it's completely over for them, but I do think that there's a good chance that they don't end up pulling off the division. To me, it really is going to come down to what happens over the next 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The NFC East will get figured out over the next 3 weeks. You have Dallas play Washington, and the Giants and Eagles play this weekend. You then have next weekend you have the Redskins and the Eagles, I believe.
Hang on, I'm looking it up.
And then the Cowboys and Eagles play again the following week. So, I mean, based on how the things unfold with the next 3 weeks, this division will be figured out.
Yeah, you're right. Washington and Philadelphia play Monday Night Football, December 3rd, the same week that the Cowboys actually play the Saints on a Thursday night game. Thankfully, that game's in Dallas, so we might actually have a shot.
Yeah, Dallas doesn't play a road game until the week after they play Philly. Their next 3 games are at home.
Well, that's good to know.
Well, especially them coming off of a huge road win in Atlanta, having 3 home games in a row, with the team winning 2 games in a row really kind of sets them up. The one thing that you can always say about Dallas is if they're executing and running the ball, they play a type of football that really kind of slows down those high-powered offenses and takes a few possessions away, and then all of a sudden they get 1 or 2 stops or force a few field goals instead of touchdowns, and they're in a game that's in the fourth quarter, and they're playing that bully ball. So that Dallas can that's one thing I'll say about Dallas. If they actually play their type of football and succeed at it, they can play football with the best teams in the league. It's just going to come down to the fourth quarter with them. They're not going to blow any of those teams out of the water. It's going to be a tie game or one team up by 3 and who makes the most plays in the fourth quarter. So the NFC East will be figured out though in the next 3 weeks. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but I'll tell you one thing because I'm looking at his comment in the chat right now. All the NFC East teams are so bad they will all finish 7-9, 4-way tie. Well, I definitely get the sentiment, but the one thing you can say about the NFC East is, especially over the last 5 or 6 years, there have been some years where it seems like all the teams are terrible. They don't fit. You don't see the NFC East champion wind up finishing at 7-9. I see what you said there. I think 8-8 might be a stronger possibility, but I don't think they're all going to finish at 7-9. Tell you the
Yeah, I don't think so either, but there's a really large possibility that something like that could happen, and it wouldn't be overly surprising, just
truth.
based on what you've seen, and like your cousin points out. I mean, Giants went 9-7, won and won the Super Bowl. I mean that the NFC East is always going to be a tough division. Maybe won't maybe not the division stacked with the most talent, but a division that really can hang with any team if you're going to go nose to nose. So,
Yeah, that's true.
I really think any team that comes out of this division could still hurt one of the better teams in the NFC. I'm not saying go on a Super Bowl run, but maybe beat a team that people had high expectations for. So it's not over for the NFC East as a whole when it comes down to the final playoff run of this season.
Yeah, that's true. Excuse me, that's definitely true. But I'll tell you this: I was kind of holding this for when Erich got here, but now I don't. I don't know if he's going to wind up making it with us tonight. Let's talk about the Giants a little bit here because they sat at 1-7 a couple weeks ago, and now they've beaten up on some bad teams. 49ers last week. They hold on to beat the Buccaneers this week, and then you look at their schedule the rest of the season: Eagles, Bears, Redskins, Titans, Colts, Cowboys. Wouldn't exactly call that a tough schedule.
I also wouldn't call it a walk in the park. I mean, let's keep in mind, just last week we were talking about the Titans and what they were able to do to New England. So Indianapolis has now won 3 in a row. Andrew Luck has thrown for 3 touchdowns in 4 or 5 straight games.
Bears beat the Vikings on Sunday.
Bears defense is something serious. Khalil Mack is just – there's very few players that blatantly look better than everybody else. Khalil Mack is one of those players. But, I mean, you never know what can happen in the Cowboys-Giants game. That game will also be at MetLife Stadium. One thing I think we all know is even if the Giants were out of it, they would give everything they had to stop the Cowboys from being able to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that game's basically just a coin flip, especially 5 weeks, 5 games away. But you really look at their schedule, and I wouldn't call it the hardest, but I also wouldn't say it's the walk in the park. Playing San Francisco and playing Tampa Bay, those are games that, if you believe you can compete, can win. But I'll say this. Bottom line is I've watched that team go and do things over the last 10 years or so of my life that I couldn't believe they were able to freaking do. So I will never, ever, ever sit here and actually count out the Giants just because you never freaking know. So
yeah,
I see this division and how it started off. Giants fans should be rooting for a Cowboys win because that dilutes the division even more.
Yeah.
If Washington wins, then they go 2 games up on Dallas, and if the Giants are able to beat Philly, then they're 2 games up on everybody. So it's one of those things where the Giants would actually rather Dallas win because then the Giants, if they win, are 1 game out of first place in the division. Or I'm sorry, 2 games. Either way, but
it's still a valid point. Yeah, and if I'll tell you this, if they win this week against Philadelphia, it's amazing how fast the season can turn in the NFL. Because a few weeks ago, the Giants looked like they were dead in the water, had no chance for this season, should have been playing for a high draft pick. And now, if they beat Philadelphia this week, obviously they haven't guaranteed themselves for anything. But they beat Philadelphia. They're a team that you have to take seriously the rest of the way. I don't care what team you are.
I agree. And let's be honest, their offensive talent, bottom line is for them, if you can protect Eli he can do damage with what they have on the outside with Beckham and Shepard, what they have on, with the dual threat of Barkley coming out of the backfield. You have the tight end, Evan Ingram. I mean, their offensive weapons can match up with most teams in the league. And that is dangerous if you give Eli Manning time. You've seen what he's been able to do against two teams with no pass rush. So I really think it's one of those things that things can unfold the right way for the Giants that they could end up winning the division. I won't even argue with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really don't want it to happen, tell you the truth. But, yeah, no, definitely can. Definitely can. Anything else from this weekend that stuck out to you, Dave?
Oh, real quick, I'm just going to throw this out there for your cousin. I will not sit here and say the last two wins have proved anything about the New York Giants. I'm sorry. You literally are talking about the Giants beat Tampa Bay by 3 points after Tampa Bay had to bench Fitzpatrick after 3 turnovers, and then Winston came in and had 2 more turnovers. So you're talking to 5. They gave you 5 extra possessions, and you still lost by 3 points, or only won by 3 points. That win didn't prove anything to me about the New York Giants, other than the fact that they have the potential to be very good, but you didn't play anybody that's good. So you did what you should do if you consider yourself a good team. Now you have to go out there and win the games that people don't think you can win. So I don't mean to knock on the party, but until you actually win games don't expect you to win, it really doesn't mean anything.
Fair enough. And with that, he's here, ladies and gentlemen. Erich Tressler is here tonight. Erich, how you doing?
Sounds like a bitter Cowboy fan, if you ask me. It sounds like you guys should concentrate on your team and not worry so much about the team that's in last place in the division.
Spoken like a man. Spoken like a man who only heard one part of the conversation. I just want to point that out.
I'm just saying, I only came in on one part, and the one part I heard was some Giant bashing. Now, the one thing you can say in the last 2 weeks, yeah, they played crappy opponents, but it shows you when they give Eli time, he can be a good quarterback in this league. He can make plays. He can do things. Saquon Barkley can do things if he has time to do them. It just shows you what the mediocre offensive line can do against a bad team. They need to still upgrade that offensive line, and they would be a much better team. It's still a work in progress. By no means are they making the playoffs. By no means are they winning out and winning everything. I'm not trying to say that. But at the same time, the Cowboy fans are feeling themselves a little bit because everybody saw the Theismann-like injury to Alex Smith. And with the Eagles faltering, Dallas is kind of licking their chops, thinking this division could be ours now. And I just want to say, don't get too ahead of yourselves because you're only one Jerry Jones mouth away from, mediocrity again yourselves. So don't get too high off of your win on the Falcons.
All right, really quick, Erich. I just need to say one thing, and it's my only response. Everything you just said is exactly what I said before you came on.
Well, then why would you say that the Giants I don't know. I don't understand the second part of your conversation.
Erich, in all fairness, what Dave said was in response to something my cousin said on the chat board. He said the last 2 games have proved that Saquon Barkley at number 2 was the right move. And all Dave was saying was that the last 2 weeks haven't proven anything, which I think you
they proved it's the right move. I'll agree with David in the chat room. It's the right move. You could see the talent clearly that Barkley has, and not one of these quarterbacks is standing out as a superstar right now. Not even Baker Mayfield, not Josh Rosen. None of these guys are emerging as a clear-cut guy. Even Sam Darnold, they're saying now they got to change the coach to get a guy who's more QB-friendly in there. And, I get it. But at the same time, the Giants made the absolute right move getting the best guy in the draft, is Saquon Barkley, who's going to be a stud for them for years to come, where they could have drafted a quarterback and had nothing but quarterback controversy all year as that quarterback sat behind Eli and then eventually started. The Giants still wouldn't have had a run game. That quarterback still would have been in a lot of trouble, and it wouldn't have mattered. You needed to shore up the run game before you can worry about getting a quarterback. If I'm not mistaken, did Dak and Zeke come in the same draft?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys kind of lucked out with that one. Nobody sees Kyle Lauletta as a future New York quarterback. And, you know, I'll be honest, there's nobody in this draft coming out that's a surefire, you know, you want to be at the top of the draft to get this quarterback type draft. If I'm the Giants, I'm not trying to tank to get a quarterback. I would tank to get a lineman. I would tank to get a linebacker. I would tank for a few other positions, but I'm not tanking for quarterback this year because the talent isn't out there in college football. Next season, when you have Tua come out and all that, then maybe the talent pool's going to rise a little bit. Right now, it's not high enough.
I think everybody, even everybody I've heard talk, would say the same thing. The quarterbacks coming out over this coming draft aren't really, hey, we should trade, you know, our next 2 years worth of first-round draft picks plus this year's draft pick just to move up so we can draft one of these quarterbacks. I don't think anybody's playing that game this year. I mean, there's always going to be that one team that does something draft that you shake your head at, but I don't think it would be for one of these quarterbacks. I'll also say the fact, like, look, I'm not saying that Saquon Barkley was not worth the number 2 pick. I will say that if you believe one of these quarterbacks was the long-term answer after Eli, then to me it would have been worth doing. But you don't. I
don't see any of them that way. I don't see even Mayfield, who I was the highest on, I think, until they get the coaching tree figured out there, and he went to the place where quarterbacks die, unfortunately, with the Browns, and, you know, it just –
If I can make a point real quick, because, Eric, I get entirely what you're saying, but I think there's also a difference between a rookie quarterback getting thrown into the fire in his first season and having a year to sit behind a veteran quarterback and kind of learn the system a little bit before he's thrown in. You look at what these quarterbacks are doing this year, and then you look at Pat Mahomes, who had basically an entire redshirt season behind Alex Smith, and then you see what he's doing this year. I'm not saying any of these quarterbacks would do what Mahomes is doing with a year on the bench to learn. But I'm just saying you see the difference in this.
But Mahomes is also with Andy Reid, who's a quarterback guru.
Well, that's fine, and I give you that point. And, you know, I also give you the fact what you said.
Yeah, you're also the Giants quarterback was the guy that made Case Keenum look good. So having guys wouldn't be a bad thing.
But I also want to give credit to what Erich said about the fact that if the Giants did take a quarterback in the draft, there would be nothing but a quarterback controversy absolutely every week, and that would help out anybody. So
and this year, I'll be honest, well, real quick, too, and to be honest, if, say, just going back in time, if you go to rewind the clock and the Giants drafted Sam Darnold instead of drafting Saquon Barkley, Darnold would have sat on the bench this year. It would have been nothing but a quarterback controversy. And next year, in this coming draft, there's not another player out there like Saquon Barkley at the top of the draft, running back-wise. Nobody's out there that you're going to take that high. Nobody's out there that quality. And that was a position of need for the Giants, who had one of the worst run games in the league. I see no downside in their draft from last year. Saquon Barkley looks like a stud, and I'll defend picking him till the cows come home.
Okay.
That's the thing I'm noticing, Mike. My bad, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nobody's sitting here saying taking him at the 2 pick was a bad move. And it's like.
But in order to get a quarterback last season, you had to not draft Barkley to do it.
By just the concept of maybe taking the quarterback instead. Nobody's saying it was a bad decision. He is a freak of nature. I watched him. I don't have DirecTV anymore. I'm stuck with Giant games. I can't do anything about it. Nobody's saying anything about that, but it's funny to me how aggressively we're defending that pick off of just an idea.
Yeah. All right, let's end it on that because we got a little under 8 minutes left here. Let's go to our picks for this week. Now, last week, we all had some duds last week, not going to lie. I went 1-2. Erich went 1-2. Dave put up a big goose egg. He went 0-3. We all took it. Huh?
Ouch.
I'm sorry. Because you picked Atlanta, Minnesota, and Kansas City, and unfortunately, none of them helped you out. I at least had the foresight to pick Chicago. I picked the Bears, so I got that going for me. And Erich's the only one of us who actually picked the Rams. None of us thought the Cowboys were going to beat the Dolphins, so we got that going for us. Going into this week, I sit at 21, 11, and 1. Dave is at 15, 14, and 1. And Erich moved up a little bit. He's at 14, 16, and 1. So with that, the games we will be picking this week, we got 2 of the Thanksgiving games. We start with Atlanta going into New Orleans to take on the Saints. Real quick, everyone, let's start with Erich. Who you got?
Saints. They look dominant right now.
Yeah, I'm going with the Saints on that one, too. Dave, who you got?
Yeah, until the Saints look bad, I can't pick against them. So I'm going to go with the Saints as well.
Right on.
Drew Brees is on fire right now. Fire.
I can't believe the dude has never won an MVP award in his entire career. That's insane to me. He needs to win one this year.
He keeps up doing what he's been doing. I think he does win it. Plus all the records he's breaking, I think he kind of gets the sentimental vote as well.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so next we got the Alex Smithless Washington Redskins going into Dallas to take on the Cowboys. I am not breaking from my time-honored philosophy in picking against the Cowboys every week, so I am going with Washington on that one. Dave, who you got?
I mean, look, Colt McCoy can ball out, and last time he played in Texas, he put a whooping on the Cowboys. But Dallas should win this game. They're supposed to win this game. So I have to pick the Cowboys. They should be the better team on Thursday.
Erich, who you got?
Cowboys. They should be the better team Thursday. I mean, I think it marks the downturn of Washington's season officially, and I'd be surprised, honestly, if they finish 8-8.
Yeah, makes sense. Though, Dave, I agree with your point before. Colt McCoy has won in situations like this in the past, so I can definitely give you that. Next, we got the Sunday game. The New York Giants going into Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. I'm going to be honest. Philadelphia really has not played well over the last couple weeks. I'm going with the Giants in this game here. Erich, who you got?
Such an ugly game. I'm gonna stick and think that they're gonna keep rolling. 2 games is gonna turn into 3. I'm going with the G-Men.
All right, Dave, who you got?
I mean, it's kind of one of those classic tales of both teams going in opposite directions. The Giants are riding high after 2 games in a row. The Eagles are feeling kind of down after not only 2 losses in a row, but getting romped on by New Orleans by 41. But I'm going to – you know what? I think Philly comes out with an extra chip on their shoulder, and I'll take the Eagles.
Okay. All right, so that'll do it for our picks this week. Now, we got 4 minutes left here, so I want to make this quick. But, Erich, I want to talk to you about something that happened yesterday. I want your opinion on this. I want to tell you my opinion on this first, and then I want your opinion. So the Yankees traded 3 prospects, including Justice Sheffield, to the Seattle Mariners for James Paxton, who was one of the bigger names on the trade market this offseason. And I'm a fan of James Paxton. Back in the day when I played fantasy baseball, I would have James Paxton on my team every year, and then he would inevitably get hurt. I would wind up dropping him sometime around mid-season. James Paxton is a good pitcher, but he is the most games he's ever pitched in a season is 28 games, which he pitched this year. To me, this is not a great move. I'm not saying it's a terrible move. I would have just kept Justice Sheffield. The kid's younger, and he's got more potential, in my opinion. I want to hear your opinion, Erich, really quick.
No, they made the right move here. They definitely made the right move, getting rid of Sheffield. Sheffield wasn't their talent anyway. They acquired him from the Indians in the Andrew Miller trade. And they proved last year at the end of the year, or really in mid-season, when they needed pitching. And instead they went out and traded for Lance Lynn. They went out and traded for Happ. They went out and made other moves instead of bringing him up. And even when they brought him up in September and he pitched out of the bullpen, he really wasn't great. I mean, he was all right. You could tell he's got good stuff, but his control's just not there. I'm totally cool with giving that up. Paxton's had a good last 2 seasons, although the injury risk is there as well. I don't think this is the Yankees' last move, and I don't think they gave up too much to get him. So I'm good with this move, and then they're still going to sign another starting pitcher, whether they sign or trade. They're definitely going to make that move, and then from what I'm hearing, they may land Machado and or Harper. and I'm hearing the and part coming on pretty strong lately. So, I mean, that would be an absolute all-in move if they decided to do that. They have the money to do it because they've been under the luxury tax. So they kind of reset themselves there. And the Yanks aren't afraid to spend money. So if that's what it comes down to, I'm sure they'll open the checkbook. But it depends on if they want to stick to what they've been doing or if they're ready to make that all-in move. But yeah, no, I like the move.
Well, I'll tell you this. Cashman was on with Francesa earlier today, and he seemed more inclined towards Machado than he did Harper. But with the Yankees, you never know on that one. So I think that's going to do it here for us. We got about a minute and a half left. Let's get some final thoughts here. Thank you to everybody for listening. Dave Hastings.
Just want to say, man, hope you guys have a happy and healthy Thanksgiving and hopefully surrounded by loved ones.
Yeah, you too, my brother. You too. Erich,
Food, family, and football. Everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy Thanksgiving. And roll tide. Watch some college football this weekend if you get a chance. Big weekend, Alabama, Auburn, Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, big rivalry weekend coming up. So let's see what happens. But, yeah, roll tide and everybody enjoy football, food, and family.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I am Mike Aglioloro. Happy Thanksgiving to my cousin David. This is the week where you look at things you're thankful for, and what I am thankful for is to be able to do this with my good friends, both you guys, Dave and Erich. I'm thankful for both of you guys joining me here every week. Thank you guys for being here with me each and every week. Thank you to everybody for listening, and we will see y'all next week.
Stay sweaty.